We have a very special treat for you today. It is another special edition of the latest news to keep you in the groove with Maya. And Maya, why is this edition so special?
Because Skylar Astin is calling in.
Skylar Astin, woo!
What's up, everybody? How you doing? What's up, Maya?
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there. I'm trying to stay creative and calm during this time.
Yeah.
Truly. Yeah.
Yeah. I just learned yesterday that I'm starting to go a little crazy because my mom was telling me, like, the days start to blur together and,
Right.
yeah.
I feel like in this time, especially, it's okay to give yourself a break. And I think there's a lot of pressure to be handling this well and to be really physically active and to be the most in shape and to be the best diet and the best baker. And it's like, giving yourself a break and being like, hey, I was acting a little cuckoo bananas today, and that's okay because I've been inside for over a month. And, what's that about? So yeah. I think that that's also important to, like, give yourself that much needed break. I feel like, I don't subscribe to that kind of competitive social media thing, but I know that can kind of get at people. And I don't like to see my, friends and family, get that way.
Yeah.
What questions do you have for him, Maya?
Well, first I want to say I'm so starstruck to be talking to you right now.
I appreciate it. I'm happy to be talking to you.
Thank you. So my first question for you is who or what inspired you to become an actor?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'd probably say my mom inspired me. Well, there's two answers to that question. From a creative standpoint, this is a very random and specific story, but I saw Jekyll and Hyde on Broadway when I was about 8 or 9 years old. And I had no desire yet to be a performer. I know I only loved playing the piano and I loved going to theater. And I saw Robert Cuccioli in the original Jekyll and Hyde, and there's this really thrilling part of Jekyll and Hyde at the end where he's turning into Jekyll and Hyde in front of your very eyes, down center stage. I had great seats. My mom got it for me for Hanukkah, and I'm watching this human being, and I know in my brain that's a real human, becoming two people. And that was like, I know that's like a very basic way of saying, like, I was like, this guy is acting his face off. And like, what is that? And what is that like? And how do you get there? And how do you do that? And how do you physicalize two people at once? And that just got my wheels turning. And about 4 years later, my mom, my other inspiration, she could tell that I probably had some low key interest and kind of bribed me with a meal in the neighboring town to go audition for the show in that neighboring town. And it worked out for all parties involved. I got my meal, I got the role, and my life totally changed that year.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're a singer and actor, and you've been on Broadway, in movies, and on TV. Is there one that you prefer?
Oh, that's great. I mean, here's the thing. I don't prefer one because I acknowledge that there are like unique challenges and rewards in both. So like there's a really interesting challenge when you shoot a movie or a TV show where you start your story from the middle or the end. I've done movies where we're shooting the last scene first. I mean, what is that? Like, you must know your character's journey inside and out and know exactly how to just drop him in the middle of something. Whereas theater, you do have the luxury of doing it front to back. But you also have the challenge of doing it front to back with no stops, and it could be tiring. And doing a theater schedule where you're performing 8 shows a week could be tough. Then again, you're now seeing my indecisive Libra-ness. Then again, there's nothing like the thrill and the response and the warmth of a live audience and the challenge of a live audience. So I do feed off of that, but I also love the process and the puzzle of making, a movie or a TV show.
Cool. So have you had a favorite project or character that you've played?
My favorite project is probably, it's just always the first thing that always comes to my head is Spring Awakening. It was my Broadway debut. It was this like generational rock musical that was kind of like what Rent was during Rent's time. And it's just become something that now it's been over 13 years, and the cast and I still keep in touch every day. And in the nostalgia and the reverence for what we all did, it's finally starting to hit us all these years later, like what all that was to be in a Broadway show at 18 and like winning all these awards. And like, we were always so distracted and busy because we were working so hard on the actual product to make it great night after night that like we didn't stop and smell the roses. And that's not to say that we should have. I don't think you could properly at that time or that age. So again, Spring Awakening is very important to me. Again, another theater experience I did this year was Into the Woods at the Hollywood Bowl. That was just a lot for my growth. And of course, the Pitch Perfect franchise was such an important, indelible like part of my career. Those friendships, those experiences were, lasting.
Cool. Yeah. My next question is actually about Spring Awakening, because I'm obsessed with the music from that. I think I've had the whole soundtrack just on a loop for like the past month.
Oh. What's your favorite song?
I can't. Okay, I'm gonna say it starts with Totally, but I can't say the rest of.
Yes.
Thanks, Maya. I appreciate that.
Yes, very smart. Believe me, my sister was like, gosh, she must have been like 8 or 9, and so she couldn't even see her brother on Broadway, which was so sad. But we ended up doing something where the producers and director would sneak her in and out of the appropriate time so she could see her brother in the slightly more wholesome songs. And then when it got to that song and some other stuff part of the show, like they would just like, okay, Brielle, let's go, and they would just like escort her out of the back of the It's pretty bad. My parents were very pleased with how they handled that. It was very, very, very considerate.
Cool. Yeah. I was joking with my sister that one not only is that just that song is one of my favorites from the soundtrack, but I was telling her it's also a really good way to like when you're frustrated, like listen to it and just like scream it.
To me, it's like the definition of catharsis. It's that feeling that it's like feels so bad and good at the same time. And it was a really great release. Like I will say, between another song that ends with the words "of living," if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that song that started off the show in a very like catapulting way. And then Totally, which kind of was towards the end of our show. We really like, if you were having a tough day in New York in 2006 and you happened to be in that play, you got to take out some of your frustrations on stage every night and get a thrilling response. It felt good. Some days I needed it more than others. Some days it was just fun to be in a rock concert.
That's so cool. Yeah. So I was just wondering, what that experience was like, and if you have a favorite song.
Well, my favorite song is probably Left Behind, which is this gorgeous song that Melchior sings to the father at Morris's funeral. And it's, just the melodies are gorgeous. I really like Touch Me. I just love I love how people are I mean, I have a really lovely part at the end of it, but like, also I just think it showcases a lot of the boys really well, and the girls were always doing this stunning choreography, and it was just like a really cool moment where we all got to look at each other in the play. A lot of times we weren't really interacting as a real full unit, and it was a particularly beautiful part of the show where we were all able to kind of walk in a straight line and do these like synchronized movements that won a Tony Award for Best Choreography that we helped create. So again, like that whole show being a part of something from its inception in the original, I know songs that have been cut. I know concepts that were cut when we were supposed to come out in contemporary clothes during the finale. That only lasted one preview. And so the cast really bonded in the madness of what it is to put on an original. Well, it was an adapted play from an original, adapted musical from an original play, but it's basically a new play. The material is completely reimagined for the stage this way. So that is all to say that, I mean, like, for instance, here's one story. In that one song, Of Living, John Gallagher Jr. plays Moritz. Like, a lot of that choreography was born out of a really, really tough day we were all having, where we just couldn't crack the tempo. We couldn't crack the choreography. We understood the idea of what we were trying to say with the song, but for some reason we had been through like 3 of them and they just weren't working. And Gallagher and Bill T. Jones, the choreographer, just said, well, what do you feel? What are you feeling right now? And he allowed John Gallagher to like vamp the music and just like let it out. And we married some of those movements, and then it became a part of the fabric of the show. There's probably people all over the world that do a version of what Gallagher did that day in Brooklyn at that college when we were just rehearsing for an off-Broadway show that had a limited engagement that eventually, you know, extended and then eventually transferred and then went on to become, you know, the piece of musical theater that it has. But at that time, we were just in some local college auditioning, rehearsing, and just trying to make this play make more sense.
Cool. Yeah. I know I had first heard about the play. I mean, I think I had like heard about it from like a bunch of different things, but really there was this show that I was obsessed with called Rise, where they put on the play.
Yes.
And I was obsessed with that show, and I was also so inspired by Lou that like he believed in this play, and he knew that it talked about some really important things, and that he didn't let anything stop him from putting it on. And I was just so inspired by that.
Well, I know that Stephen and Duncan, who wrote Spring Awakening, they really like thought that it was a really lovely thing that they were saying about theater and theater at the community high school youth level, and they instantly gave NBC the rights, and I think they actually gave them a one of the songs that we never did in the play, and they did it on the show. I think, because Steven texted me. He was like, yeah, but we wrote a song for the thing, and we all listened. It was very sweet. I mean, it was just kind of weird. We were like, well, this isn't even on our show. I got to look it up, because it's on Spotify for sure, Spring Awakening. Yeah, whatever. I'll find it at some point. Touch Me, Word of Your Body. Wow, they did the whole play. All You Desire.
Oh.
That's not in Spring Awakening, but it's such a Spring Awakening song. Like, you hear it, you're like, yeah, that's Melchior and Gunload, like, for sure, if things were different. Yeah, All You Desire. That's a good song. They nailed it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay, I don't know. I had something I was going to say, and it just...
Just talking.
That's okay.
Yeah. Story of my life, by the way, literally. And I've become really good because that's like my type A. It's like I want to I'll like be talking. I'll be like, but there's that thing that I was going to say that I was already saying, but I'll get to it. I've become good at letting that go, because sometimes it comes back. And if it doesn't, like, we would have never like gotten to the place where we're at now, you know?
Yeah, I know there are a ton of times where I'm like talking to my mom, and I'll start saying a sentence, and then I'll just stop, and I'll be like, okay, I was going somewhere with it.
Yeah. My mom is actually really helpful with that. She helps get me back on track. Like, you were saying Jane, the show, Austin, and what we were thinking about episode 10. I was like, oh, thank you. Okay, yes. So, and that gets me back on track. Yeah. Everybody needs someone like that.
Yeah. Most of the time, my mom is like that too, but then other times she's like, I can't help you. I don't know where you were going with that. Right.
So. And I found this with remembering lines and anything like that, memories. You do have to let it go, and that's the second it just like floats back in your brain. You let it go, you breathe it out, and go, all right, I'm not going to keep trying to remember what I was going to say. I forgot. And then boom, oh, I actually remembered. You'd be surprised how many times like the universe will just drop it, right? Or your own mind will like allow itself to remember.
Yeah.
Pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, sometimes I'll remember it like hours later. And by that time, like my mom and my sister are just so confused.
Oh, it's always in the middle of the night when you just wake up and you're like, oh, that's right. Dunkaroos. That's what I wanted to mean. Dunkaroo. Who cares now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what's your favorite Broadway show?
A lot of Stephen Sondheim. He's like my guy. I just love him. He's a composer. He did, Into the Woods, obviously, but Sweeney Todd. And my favorite of his is a play called Sunday in the Park with George. It was in 1984, won a Pulitzer Prize, a lot of Tony Awards. James Lapine and Stephen Sondheim wrote it together, who I happen to know James Lapine, and he's an amazing director, writer. And it just says a lot about the artist and the art, and how when art and commerce or business try to mix, how difficult that could be, how you can get some sort of influence from people who might not be the most artistic, and such is our world, and it's pretty unbelievable when such brilliant people like Stephen Sondheim and James Lapine get to take something and say something about the artist and the art, because it's really profound. And essentially what Sunday in the Park with George is, it's about the painter George Seurat, which is my dream role essentially, who's a painter. This is a real painting called a collection of Sundays on the island of the Grand Jatte. It's something like that. And it's this beautiful pastoral painting, and it was done through pointillism, which means that it's just repeated dots. It's just this guy just dipping in red, right, and then dipping in yellow, and that's orange. And it's really, really magnificent. And it's all the silhouettes of all these people on a collection of Sundays. And there's the royalty, and there's the person. Anyway, this is all to say that Stephen Sondheim and James Lapine looked at that painting and said, who are these people? What must they mean to the artist? Did tons of research and crafted an original story about George Seurat, the painter in France in 1884, on a collection of Sundays, and who these people were to him, and how they all collectively come together in this one place, in this one experience. And now I can't help but think about how much more meaningful that is, just everybody all in a park, sitting together before these were around, So it's really, and the music is just stunning. I highly recommend checking it out. There's actually a recording of the original production with Bernadette Peters and Mandy Patinkin, and it's probably on YouTube, and it's lovely.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you play Max in Zoey's Extraordinary Playlist. I also love that show. And so how did that opportunity come about?
Well, I had the creator and the guy who writes the show, Astin Winsberg. I am very, very, very lucky, because he told me at the meeting that I was walking into, not knowing if I had the part, but I heard that there was a lot of interest in me. But when I got there, I understood that it kind of was my part for the taking, because Austin's so here's the deal, man. We went to the same theater camp, he and I, but I don't know him, it's years apart. But he just always is dude, every time I thought about writing a version of myself, I always thought you'd play it. And I've never met you. And I was well, this is fortunate. I mean, it's rare that you walk in and someone's I think you're great, and I'm a fan, and I've always thought of you. And you're oh my God, I don't know. I guess I should, So we clicked immediately. Of course, we went right into musical theater talk. It was me, Astin, and one of our main producers, Kim Tannenbaum. And slowly Kim Tannenbaum just becomes not a part of the conversation at all, because Astin and I are just talking, and blah, 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 and we're just talking and talking. And so the rest was history. And we spoke last night after the episode, and we speak after every episode, and he's become a dear friend of mine and an actual collaborator. He's one of the few showrunners or creators that will actually take an actor's opinion, and I mean, he may not put it in every time, but man, he values his cast, and he understands that we're in the psychology of those characters. So very few times we might actually know the answer best. And that kind of collaboration is something that you see in theater at the workshop phase sometimes, but rare. And I think he's a special guy.
Cool. Yeah, so what was your favorite song to perform on the show?
Hasn't aired yet.
So you can't tell us. Top secret.
I can't tell you, but I really liked Sucker. That was really fun. I really liked coming up with that fun choreography with Mandy Moore. We had this whole jacket thing where trying to get the zipper to go up and down at the right time, which is fun. And then I really, really liked, there's a little exclusive for you, Maya. So have you seen episode 6 when I sing I would walk 500 miles.
Yeah.
So at the very end, there's two versions. There's like the fast version where we're like trying to get home. And then there's like the slow, pretty version where I'm like, I'm 100% in love with it. And that ends the episode. And we actually were running out of time on the day to shoot that. And we rushed it. And I never make a stink, like really. Like I'm not a complainer. I'm not going to like throw a tantrum on set. That's just not me. But it was really rushed to the point of like, you can't say that was what that was. We did one take. It wasn't lit. We thought, hey, if we don't get it tonight, we're not going to get it. This is so like gossipy, but they wouldn't mind me telling the story. And I was like, no. Like on behalf of Max, I bet like we will reshoot that one day down the line. We will have time. Put me against a tree. I don't care when it is. You can call me in the middle of the night. We're shooting that scene properly. I need 2 takes, 3 takes tops, but not one, and not one that's not proper. And they eventually saw it in the edit, realized, okay, he's right. And then like we shot that towards the end of season 1 when we were finishing filming. And it's like, okay, what do we need from episode 9? That one shot of Skylar's hand. Okay, we get that. It's like when you're finishing a TV show, it's like you're shooting like every scene you're shooting from another episode. You're just trying to complete, finish. And, so that could fall low on the priority. If it's like, look, man, we got that already. We might do it again. I don't know. But it was something I was actually slightly relentless on. And now it's probably become one of people's favorite parts of the show. And I'm telling you, it sounded pretty still. It looked pretty still. But I'm glad we took the time and gave Max that moment that he deserves,
Yeah. Cool. So you're going to be in the upcoming Disney Plus movie, Secret Society of Second-Born Royals.
Yes, well done.
I'm really excited to see that movie. Can you tell us anything about it and about filming it?
Yeah, so it comes out this summer. We filmed it in Toronto, last April, May, June. Oh gosh, it's a really fun ride. I actually just saw the movie and I narrate the movie, which is pretty fun. So I got to see it so I could be like, let me tell you guys a story about mine. So here's what it is. So Secret Society of Second-Born Royals, which I've had to say very fast and very often because I'm the leader, teacher, mentor guy. It's about these young princes and princesses, and but they're the second-borns. They're the Prince Harrys. They're not the Prince Williams. They're not the heir to the throne. They're maybe like the party animal or the alt girl or the one who really wishes she could be princess, but turns out her older sister, of course, is in line. And their purpose and their reason for actually within the realm existing is my character. Is a teacher, also a prince, also has this ability. I gather them and I explain to them through their kind of origin story that there's a special gene found in second-born royals that gives you superhuman abilities. So basically what I'm saying is you guys have superpowers. And you will need that because you are the keepers, you are the defenders of the kingdom in a special society that we call the Secret Society of Second-Born Royals. So that's basically the idea of who they are and why they are and what they're doing on this planet. And the whole first movie, this origin story is how they understand their powers, they harness their powers, and eventually how they use their powers. And of course, through within it, there's stories about friendship and battle, and it's a really, really fun movie.
Okay, so do you have any upcoming projects that you can tell us about? Or do you have any plans to release your own music?
That's so. Since this quarantine has happened, the idea of releasing an album or recording an album or even having time to write all the music that would have to be put in place, I didn't want to ever rush it again. I don't like to rush things, as you can tell, and I just think it's important to take my time and understand even what I want to say, because I've written bunches of songs over the years, and some are more John Legendy singer-songwritery, some are like slower, and like there's like this one that I just revisited the other night that's like kind of a Bruce Springsteen ballad. And I was just like, do I do an album where it's actually just a bunch of different genres? You know, do the songs have to sound similar, or could they actually sound completely? I wonder if that's the case. So I've always had those kind of thoughts swirling in my brain. And then, look, this pandemic and this awful virus is undeniably evil. The quarantine aspect, if you're remaining healthy and staying safe, has proven difficult, but also it's forced people to kind of get real with themselves about who they are, what they are, if they're maybe in the proper kind of living situation. And for me, it's allowed me the time to sit in front of my piano and kind of fall in love again, and just kind of exploring and creating. And I've spent like 30 nights here in this house since I got it like last April, meaning that I've just been traveling a lot. And I'm not saying I'm fortunate for this time. I'm not even saying that, by the way, 4 days into this, I'm ready to go somewhere else and keep working. I do thrive off creating and being on set. But since that energy is, you know, hanging out at home right now, I developed this little series on my Instagram called Home Keys. It started just as like a fun little exploration of just like playing some songs for myself. And then I shared it with like my community, my family, my friends, my close friends. And then I think they were like, hey man, you should put this out there. Like, this really brightened up my day. And I was like, okay, I've sang on Instagram before. I put it out, and then it just kind of has taken off into, I kept singing, I kept posting. And now it's kind of like a daily thing. I just posted a fun, poppy, not taking myself too seriously version of Corner of the Sky this morning. So like, from Pippin. So there's a musical theater there. I did a Louis Capaldi song, an Adele song, a Stevie Wonder song, a Bill Withers song, a tribute. So, you know, it's just been something to distract and to just help people, you know, spread some positivity and kindness and maybe a good message during this lonely time.
Cool. Yeah. So is there a show that you're currently binge watching?
Well, I just binged through a show that is slightly inappropriate maybe for this audience, but it's called Dave. And it's about like his rapper.
I always say just check with parents first.
Dave on Hulu. So I can't recommend that to you, but what I can, I'm also on this show that I'm not watching right now, but I've seen it because I've done them all. I'm on this show called Trolls, The Beat Goes On Netflix. And I play the Branch character, and I know that the sequel for the movie just came out. We have a bunch of episodes that we've done now in conjunction with certain new characters in the movie. So that's like the gift that keeps on giving. There's like a deep library of me singing and adventuring and being a total cartoon. And actually, hold on, I have right here the official rendering of my character that they gave me as a little gift on our 100th episode.
Oh, that's cool.
That was the
So
original
cool.
rendering for the first episode. So yeah, but no, that's really self-serving. Obviously, you asked me what I'm watching. That I really want to watch Ozark. I hear is pretty good. I loved Cheer. Have you seen Cheer?
I haven't.
It's fun. I think for me, what I love about it is like, I'm a fan of like niche stuff. Like, for instance, like Pitch Perfect showed a cappella music. Like, people didn't understand collegiate a cappella was a thing. I'm a big musical theater nerd. Some people don't fully like understand and resonate with that. So I like people's nerd cultures and like, or niches. And this Cheer, I thought I really knew and understood what cheerleading really was on its own. And it's funny, but also there's a competition aspect. There's a total narrative of these kids, and it's obviously really popular. And I feel like I'm late on it, but like it was great. I liked it.
Cool. Yeah. We've been watching. I've been like rewatching Gilmore Girls, and then my family and I have been watching The New Adventures of Old Christine.
Yes, with Julie Louis-Dreyfus, right?
Yeah.
Oh, she's a genius.
Yeah. Yeah, which my mom has seen it before, but my sister and I haven't. So
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's interesting. Like, you know, I mean, now you get to go to these libraries that we have from these streaming platforms. And like my mom, for instance, who loves Lauren, has met Lauren Graham. who's on Zoey's, and thinks the world of her, loves her on Zoey's, loved her on Parenthood, but just for some reason when we were kids, like my mom just like didn't watch TV because she was so busy having 4 kids. So now she's watching Seinfeld, and she's like, Seinfeld's the best show, and I was like, oh, it's probably one of the funniest shows of all time, Mom. And she's like, I know you guys loved it and would watch it with dinner, but she was just the super mom of the world. So now she's getting that that much deserved time, and I was like, watch Gilmore Girls, you will love it. So I think my mom's going to start getting into Gilmore Girls, and by proxy, my dad's going to start getting into Gilmore Girls.
That's what happens.
What song would be on the soundtrack of your life?
Ooh. Right now, there's this song I gotta find. It's called "More" by Lawrence, and it's a really, really happy song. I wonder if I could play it. Are we like breaking all these music rights now? We could always edit this out. Hey, another song. Yeah, looks like it.
That's a fun one.
I don't know what but this. I mean, it's been helpful. The very little that I've been getting out just to do the very essential things and wearing a mask and stuff, walking around my town, with a little bit of that is just a little, or at least on the inside. I mean, I'm not going to embarrass myself, or do I? But yeah, that song's been very helpful during this time for me. "More" by Lawrence. It's really, you can't help but smile.
Cool. Yeah. I'll look that up right after.
Yeah. It feels new and old at the same time, and I love that. I love when a song can do that.
Cool. Yeah. I actually started thinking about that, and I was thinking Totally from Spring Awakening. I feel like that would be a really good song to play when I'm mad at somebody.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because you have to let it out somehow. And I always think that a healthy outlet like music is the perfect way to do that.
Yeah. So do you have a motto or quotation that you live by?
Don't be afraid to make a mistake. It might lead you to a better choice. I said that once, when I messed up just the other day, or a couple of weeks ago, I was playing this piano, and I've always subscribed to this idea that, especially in TV and film, where you get to kind of get another crack at it. If you make a mistake, and you learn this in theater, it's going to lead you to a more interesting choice. If you keep making these safe choices as an actor, as a singer, or anything, you're going to stay in that way. And if you're not afraid to make a mistake, you'll inevitably make many, but then it will definitely lead you to something more special, I think.
Cool. I like that. So my last question for you is, who do you consider to be a real life superhero, and why?
Meryl Y. Lipstein. Y is her middle name and her middle initial. That is my mom. She is a real life superhero. She beat stage 3 breast cancer. She had her lymph nodes. She had 4 kids. She is the wind beneath my wings. She literally came to, it's actually crazy what I think about in hindsight. She came to visit Pitch Perfect because she just loved that role for me and loved that. So she would come to anything. She'd come to the opening of an envelope if I asked her to, but she was there during treatment, not fun treatment, and really not advised to fly. And again, that's why I'm saying, why did we let her? I don't remember, but she flew to Baton Rouge, and it's the first time I saw her with all the stuff, and she, had her wigs on, and it was really moving. But at the time, as a kid, as a son who's looking out for your mother, you're just thinking Mom, why? And I think back, and I just am I can't believe she was there. And she was in the audience during that song. I'll always have that with her. It will always make that movie mean even more, and that experience mean even more. And just there's not another answer to that question.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think my mom and my sister are my superheroes.
Yeah. I mean, that's good. And that'll keep you grounded and rooted. And of course, my dad's his own superhero too. He's the king of our family. But, you know, my mom had to persevere through some stuff and we all helped her through it. But I mean, she led the charge.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't want to say goodbye because I just want to keep talking to you.
We'll keep in touch.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll shoot you my email. We'll talk. Don't you worry.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do it off the record, but we don't have to be all, you know, we'll just talk
you
about
could say the
theater
whole
and stuff.
Song title next time.
Exactly,
to each other.
exactly.
You
We don't have to worry
yeah.
about music clearances. We could just sing.
There you go. There you go.
But especially, I have to go write an essay on Act
Oh,
One
that's
of
why. Yeah,
Hamlet.
you just don't want to go back to work. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to go to school. We know.
I love talking to you, but also I don't want to, because I did not understand it. Like, we watched, my teacher told me to watch the first Act One in the movie, and I was so confused. My mom came downstairs, and I just gave her like a look, and she just started laughing because she was like, I was gonna ask you how it was going, but I know how.
Yeah.
So
That's hilarious. Well,
We
that's like,
mostly
job.
it's because I just love talking to you. So
yeah. Well, I get it. And by the way, I would do many things to get out of writing an essay, but no, I definitely had a good time too. And we will definitely do this again.
okay.
Thank you so much for giving us so much
sure.
time here at
Thank
Children's
you.
Hospital Colorado. Just know if you're ever here in Colorado, we'd love a personal visit. You're always invited.
I will be there.
All right. Take care. Thank you so much. And thanks for being
Take
a part
care,
of the
guys.
latest news to keep
Bye.
you in the groove with Maya. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.